record. Hi, so I'm Alison and this is Terry and we're the Sky Whisperers, and today we're recording another episode of Astrology and Beyond with Carole Taylor today, who is a Master Astrologer and has taught both of us, so we're really excited and honoured to have her with us. And Carole has a really long pedigree in astrology, from teaching at the faculty and then becoming president of the Faculty for Astrological Studies in London, and then moving on to do I might even say greater things with her own Centre for Astrology, Myth and Symbol, which I've attended courses at, which is really amazing, with other fantastic astrologers like Claire Martin and Saffron Rossi, and also setting up with Kim Farley the Asteria Teaching, which is to bring the fun back to astrology and to take out some of that kind of onerous, oh gosh, I must pass all these exams or I'm never going to be able to do it kind of feeling, which I think both Terry and I have had at different times during our lives.
A lot of people can identify with that.
Yes. Yeah. So, hi, Carole. How are you?
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm very well. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me, and it's so nice to see both of you developing your astrology, the next generation of astrologers taking your place and doing the things that you're doing, finding your own way. It's absolutely fantastic, and I know both of you in terms of your astrology, and I know that you're both really excellent at what you do. So it's just so fantastic to see you out there doing it.
Thank
Thank you
Yeah.
very much. Thank you very much.
So, can you tell us a little bit about your journey, where you started from, how astrology kind of grabbed you initially, and kind of, really where you came from with it, and had you intended to even do astrology, or how did you feel about it?
When I was young, no. I knew about the zodiac. I knew that I was a sun in Cancer, except I wasn't, because I'm born right at the end of the sign, so I'm a Gemini. But I didn't know that at the time. So I was reading all these sun sign columns and reading the sun in Cancer. So I had a lot of misconceptions about astrology. It spoke to me from a symbolic perspective,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't understand any of it, and I didn't know what a birth chart was. I didn't know such thing existed. Something about it intrigued me, so I suppose, like a lot of people, something lodges itself. And I was always interested in the things around it, like psychology, mythology, stories, narratives, people's lives,
Yeah.
history, philosophy, and so on. And as a Gemini, I always wanted there to be a subject that drew all of these things together, that wove them all together into some kind of coherent tapestry. I think that's the
Love that.
center of any Gemini's life, is to try and bring those disparate threads together.
Yeah.
And I knew that there was a subject out there that would do that. I just didn't know what it was called. And I certainly didn't think that it was astrology. So when I came across it again properly, I suppose in the early 1990s, that was like encountering something that I kind of already knew but hadn't been able to put a name to. And I kind of came across it in odd ways. I had to be kind of led into it, if you like. Uh, I remember I used to go to visit. Used to go to Brighton quite a lot, and I used to go to a cafe there, so quite a bohemian cafe, and struck up conversations with the guy who was the manager there. And he was this quite charismatic, really interesting person, very well read, lots of philosophy and so on, really, really interesting person. And he offered to draw my chart up. And of course, it was a hand-drawn chart and it was
Yeah.
really
Wow.
colourful. But he read the chart on the basis of what I now know as a kind of karmic past life, through that kind of lens.
Mm.
And he made some statements about me which seemed really quite odd. I mean, looking back, I can see why he made those statements,
Mm-hmm.
but he constructed this narrative, which I think is really interesting, because what appealed to me about this piece of paper that he'd given me was these wild symbols, these sort of hieroglyphics that obviously spoke to something about me and my experience and my life and my past lives, for goodness sake. And yet he was doing it in this really concrete way. So right at the beginning, I kind of had this vision of astrology as being a both and, or it's pivoting between these two spaces of the deeply imaginative, symbolic, mysterious, soul-led, psyche-led
Yes.
art and craft, but then on the other hand, astrologers nailing that down into some kind of narrative about a person. So I've always been in that space between the two, and I found that really interesting because I think a lot of astrologers do practice in that other way, which is very technique led. It's, this is how it is, and now I'm going to download all this information about you. And yet there's this other thing, this other way of looking at astrology, which is um, the chart serves the psyche. The chart serves that journey into psyche, rather than the chart being the thing in itself, as it were.
Yeah.
So that's been a growing part of my astrology, and then that sort of winding course through the faculty, coming out the other side of that, actually doing something quite different. So the faculty was a real training ground, proving ground.
Yeah.
But I think I was always destined to kind of move beyond that into something else.
I think it's something more open, isn't it? Something that's less well defined. Just, I don't want to say more nebulous, because I don't think that what you're describing there is nebulous, but it's nevertheless, I think it has a different texture. Something much more, not even flexible, but maybe just much bigger. It reminds me, it's much more shamanic, isn't it, really, than perhaps the astrology that that we train with at the faculty. There's something that's coming from another place, I think, with what you're describing.
Well, it's about people.
Yes.
And you've got to meet, if you're doing client work, you have to meet that person where they are and
Yes.
work with them where they are. And I think it is about, I think the conversation happens at a variety of different levels, perhaps two main levels, one of which is the ordinary and the everyday, because you're talking to people about their lives, their divorce, their marriage, their move to another country, all the stuff that's happening to them. And so there's all these very practical concerns, and an astrologer always wants to be able to address that and speak to that. But there's also something else that's happening at another level too. And you will both experience this in the work that you do, that it speaks into some other level of conversation, it jogs something else. Words and phrases can be taken both literally and metaphorically. And you play, I mean, I'm a Gemini, of course, so the idea of play on words and the idea of a word that you're listening carefully for a client or myself, saying a particular word, using it in a particular way. And then that just kind of turns the conversation into something else.
Yeah.
And so that's what I mean, I think, by led by psyche or led by the soul, because it is a meeting of psyches. It's a meeting of in a soul place, a conversation about astrology, a chart reading.
Yes.
And I think that's important to remember, because of course then the astrologer's own chart is in the mix there, and then you can have this conversation at this deeper level. You don't get in the way of it, of course. You have to be very self-aware, but yeah, and then you can be much more playful with it and much more creative. And as you say, Alison, this is one of the things that we're doing at Asteria, and also actually at the Centre for Astrology, Myth and Symbol, is to try and lift astrology out of a way of approaching it which is just about a conversation between two people, or it's just about a reading of the chart in this very
technical way,
kind of formulaic way that's kind of been laid down, but to actually bring it into the creative sphere, to use it in a shamanic context, to use it in an experiential context, or use it as fuel for creativity or artwork or some kind of inspiration or garden design, or just to lift it into life, I guess.
Yeah, but probably I think it sometimes depends, as you said, there is a conversation. It depends on the person that is the chart being read for, because some people you may see that they are really like a more like a Virgo, like myself. It's like, yeah, okay, dates, and the facts, etc. But some people like the fact that there's a story, and then it's told in a different way, with in a more literature way. I mean, no, it's like you have the symbols and everything, and it's like this. And some people like it's just like, okay, when is it going to happen? Give me the dates. I see sometimes people writing that dates. Okay, write down, and then what is it? might happen. Okay, talk, 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 talk. So it's, I think it's always like this. But of course, I think I like the when there's symbolism, and the symbolism that could be, I think, in a way turned into real life in a way. Yeah, speaking to you, I think that's really wonderful. I also like that. I mean, I think I like the combination, my Virgo sun and Pisces moon. We can grasp both of them at the same time, and I think it's beautiful. I mean, it's
Is it
beautiful.
about opening things up instead of closing them down? Because I think astrology has the possibility of doing both in some ways.
Yeah.
Either it can open up a life or it can, or in I don't want to say in the wrong hands, but in other hands or with other,
Mm.
perhaps other practitioners or other interpretations, it closes it down and says, oh no, that's not really for you. Or so I think what you're doing there is very much in the sense of the opening up. And it's always lovely if somebody after a reading comes along, like somebody did to me the other day, and said, "Oh, you predicted that I was going to change my job, and I did, and you said exactly the same time." And you think, "Yeah, that's great, okay," but
I didn't quite say
that's
it like
not
that,
what the reading
but
was about.
yeah.
We got the message, but it wasn't the whole message. No, but
No.
sometimes that's the focus of that person. So that's, I think that's
Well,
the
that's
thing,
true
because
too.
for
I
them,
mean,
I want to change
it's
the
always
job.
nice to get
Yes,
things
you
right,
did
but
that. But it's like, I don't know. I think I don't like the prediction. I think prediction, the word makes me already nervous. I don't know what you think about it, Carol. I mean, like the prediction. I mean, it's like prediction because it's like precision for me. I mean, like, so it's like it gets the magic out of it the moment that you are just trying to predict things and then doing focus on that, and it's
Mm.
like you are just off the line. I mean,
and I'm sure I didn't say that. I probably said something like, "Oh, you think you're changing your job sometime early next year?"
Absolutely. I mean, and again, this is, I work on the basis that you're not actually telling a person something that they don't already know.
Yes, that's
yeah.
interesting.
And, the paradox of an astrological reading is that you are you are the person who has the expertise on the astrology, and you're reading the chart, and you're the one in the room who's reading the chart, and the person is receiving that information on some level. Of course, that's true.
Yeah.
But if you work from the basis that the person knows already, they know the date. They're kind of, that's psyche led, because
Yeah.
somehow, that information is there. It's in the fabric of that person's life and psyche,
Mm.
and kind of soul patterning, if you like.
Mm.
And it just needs to be brought out. It needs the conversation to bring it out. And sometimes that can be done if you're a Virgo, if your client is a Virgo. Of course, you'd want to do that in ways that feel as though they have some precision, because that's going, or craft and care in the
Hmm.
way that you describe it, because that's going to speak to the person. That's going to open up that doorway into their own understanding, or to dislodge something that is held there. They already know that that date is important, or that month is going to be important. They already have that. I don't see that there's this big difference, which I think we're talking about here, between an objective reading of the chart, like the astrologer is the expert on the chart and can download this information for the client. And I would see us as doing something quite different, which is about reading the chart, and opening up the client's understanding of themselves,
Yes.
rather than telling them something about themselves. And I'm fond of saying that astrology is a language of symbols, and that seems a pretty obvious thing to say. But it's also pretty obvious to say that if it's a language of symbols, then it's only going to give you symbolic information. It's not going to give you any concrete information. And there's always the chance of free will entering into the conversation. And, it's how the client wants to unfold it.
Yes, exactly. Yes, and that's very interesting because that's something that was really kind of coming up for me while you were speaking about, dates that are already in the psyche. But the point being perhaps that those dates still have an element of choice involved in them. And although there might be something coming up, a transit of something or a direction that speaks to the 10th house in some way, then it could manifest in lots of different ways, depending on how that client kind of picks it up on some level and 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 expands it, or the life just develops in that way. So yeah.
And of course, the role of the astrologer is to open up symbolism,
Yes.
it's to provide alternative perspectives, or to draw out, or
Mm.
to attach not necessarily to attach a story to it, because you don't just want to sit there telling myths. Although sometimes the outline of a myth can be interesting and helpful,
Yeah, relevant.
but to give a space to something, and to use the dialogue and the reading of the chart, the opening up of the symbolism, to actually to open that space.
Mm.
And it, of course, transit's happening in real time, but it's also echoing back to, it's returning that person to something that's in fact already happened at the last turn of the wheel, or the last time that planet was transited, or the
Yes.
last time they had a transit of that planet. It's life is a continuity. So there is a whole layer of information that the astrologer doesn't really have access to as such,
Mm.
because it's the client's life, it's their experience, it's their past, it's their ancestry. You can see glimpses of that in the chart, and you open up that symbolism. But I think this idea of having to go into, astrologers feeling they need to go into client work, being, I think you used the word master astrologer about me before. I
Yeah,
don't think
well.
any astrologer really ever feels, well, I certainly, you don't feel as though you have mastered
Mastery over
your,
that
yeah,
subject.
you're never really the expert on, the client's the expert on their own chart. You're the expert, I guess, on reading symbols, but
Yes.
you meet the person somewhere in the middle of that.
Yeah.
And of course, it works on so many different levels as well. So that Mercury transit over, I don't know, Venus or whatever, might, symbolize in something very concrete in the world at the same time. But that doesn't mean that that's what that transit's about, because there are also, as you just described, all those other layers that are happening in the psyche. That are still the manifestation of that transit, which might have just been an email from somebody, or a contact with somebody, about a past friend or lover or something, or something else Venus related.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And all of those things are really important, because they're clues. They're
yeah,
the embodiment of, as it were, the god. It's the presence of the deity,
yeah,
if I can put it that way, actually appearing in real life.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's yeah, an encounter like that can feel, something that happens can feel quite ordinary, and
Hmm.
blink and you'd miss it. But actually, if you pick that up, it's a metaphor for something.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's what amazes me about it continually, actually. And then when you get bigger transits, that happens on a bigger level, um and suddenly, the gods are very much present and active in your life. Yeah,
Mm.
definitely.
Mm.
So tell us a little bit about the Center for Astrology, Myth and Symbol, because that really kind of feeds into that, doesn't it, I think?
Yes, it does. And I think it's completely unique. I don't see this work being done
Yeah.
really anywhere else. Um, I was talking about this with Brian and Jason and Saffron. So it's Brian Clark, Jason Holly, and Saffron Rossi, and also you mentioned Claire, and Claire has been involved in the live events, and the other four of us are working with the also working with online, doing online courses,
Yeah.
and the idea
Mm.
that we really don't see this happening in other places, apart from the work that we are doing as individuals.
Mm.
And I think having the courage to move, for me at this stage of my astrological career, really moving beyond a formal kind of training procedure,
Yes.
feels like the right thing. It felt like the right thing 2 years ago when I set it up.
Yeah.
To be more, to allow myself and the people who come within the orbit of the center to feel more exploratory. It's more a kind of facilitator and participant kind of vibe than a tutor and student kind of vibe. It's a being with, and walking alongside and mentoring and guiding from a place of maybe greater, well, I hope, greater experience and knowledge and understanding, but also trying to draw out of the students themselves, the participants themselves, something that is deep inside of them, that's their own relationship to astrology and their own relationship to the symbols. And just this idea of putting psyche right at the center of things, so that the living presence of those symbols in the chart is the thing that kind of leads the way. And there's so much richness to explore there. And we're in the process now of developing the program much more coherently and in an integrated way. We've kind of got our feet under the desk, as it were, and we're moving on with the process of it. So kind of watch this space in terms of what comes up
Really
next.
excited.
What I wonder about this, I mean, like, because I mean, moving on from a more formal structure and everything, and moving to something more free, no freedom, in a way. It's like you can free float, you do whatever you want, etc. But are you planning, or in all these schools in the future, giving anything like certificate or something, or you are saying that okay, we are just going to do our workshops and everything, and we will continue like that? Because that is also, I mean, like, gets the, I think, in a way, pressure out in a way, right? Because I mean, like, when there's a formal education or something, it's always like as if there's a target. But when there is no target, I think it gives you like more a sense of being involved. I mean, like, also the teachers or the tutors and the students. I mean, because you are not there for a target, you are there just for what is there. I mean, so I just want to know.
But there's definitely a target. It's just not a piece of paper, although not averse to handing out pieces of paper. But I think it's the process that people go through in that pedagogical interchange, in that sense of being in a classroom space with others and being opened up to an awareness of astrology and symbolism and mythic imagination on this other level. It's what I would truly think of. Well, I hope so. This is the aim of it, is to, in both Asteria and the Centre for Astrology, Myth and Symbol, is to make it about transformative learning. So the idea of the person participating in it and sharing in it and being willing to undergo some kind of transition in that process and just holding that, whatever that happens to be for the individuals. This is much more about a more hands-on kind of mentoring style, and trying to just, the aim is for that person to really connect with astrology in their own way and really understand more about themselves and and develop the relationship to the symbolism, which is it's more than a technique-led exercise and getting techniques under your belt and knowing how to use them and all of that. That's a kind, I mean, you can learn that stuff in lots of different places, but this is something else, I think. So there is an aim and there is a target. It's just not necessarily, I think a lot of astrologers and perhaps some of the schools also get a little hooked on this idea that astrology needs to be standardized and it needs to have a qualification attached to it. And for me, there's an underlying feeling there of astrology as a whole throughout history being this rejected knowledge, part of the underground stream of esoteric wisdom, Western esoteric tradition, if you can call it that, and this idea of the rejected underground knowledge. And of course, there's no legitimacy to that.
Yes.
And that's the power place of astrology, but of course, it's deeply wounding. I think astrology has a really Chironian element to it. And a lot of astrologers are trying to make it real and solid and safe and technique-led. And this technique works every time. And let me tell you how it is, because it's the shadow of doubt. If it's the shadow of the uncertainty of working with symbols. With symbols, you never know what you're going to get because it's the living presence in the moment. And that's quite scary, I think. It's quite scary. What is an astrological qualification? that's a question mark hanging for me in the air. And of course, I worked very hard to get my diploma, and I
Yes.
really value it. And I think that process is something that you commit yourself to, and
Yeah.
that's your apprenticeship, and it's a fantastic thing. But yeah, there's something else also, which is astrologers sometimes getting a little hung up on that idea of being qualified and rubber stamped, and this is how it should be done.
But I think it's sometimes it's like the peer psychology, peer pressure, however you call it. I mean, like the moment that it's like you go to a business platform like LinkedIn. I mean, like if you have profiles, etc., you will see, for example, I was a banker, so I'm an economist originally. So I mean, like you will see, I mean, we had all these, like if, especially if you are like business administration, CFS, everyone has all these,
Mm,
things, etc. And then you are looking like, okay, I don't have any of them. I mean, it's like yeah, I have a BA. Oh no, I have to now put CDCS and then this, etc. I think sometimes it's not only what uh, the people who come for an astrological consultation or following you on social media, depending what it is. It's more, I think, the peer psychology, I think, makes you, I think, get that thing. I think that's kind of a recognition within the community, astrological community, rather than for anything else. I don't know. That's my feeling.
there's something about the apprenticeship, though, isn't there? I mean, and I was thinking about music and learning the piano and how you get to grade 8 or something. I'm not a pianist, but I understand it. You get to grade 8 and then you start to play the piano
Mm.
almost. And I think it's like that with lots of things. And I don't think you necessarily need the piece of paper for the grade 8 or the piece of paper for the diploma, but I think you need to have, it's like when you're writing, if you in order to play with the words, you need to have that mastery of the vocabulary
Yeah,
and the grammar and the words and everything.
yeah,
So I think with astrology as well, you need that. And that's the apprenticeship, the paper or not. And then you get to the place where you can perhaps set up your myth and symbol and astrology and move on and start to play with it. And just to kind of make a point on that, in the course that I did with you, Carole, that was I think we described it as an alchemical vessel that the room that we were in when we were doing the work. And I imagine it's the same online when you've got a group of people and that alchemical process, it was the alchemy course, of course, that was sort
mhm.
of bubbling away and which made very real changes, I think, in lots of us during that time, certainly in me. Yeah.
And having said that, alchemy, when we are in alchemy, because I wanted to ask, how did this alchemy, all these courses, etc., come up? Where do the ideas come to you? I mean, like, because every time, every year that we come, I mean, both in Asteria or wherever Carol is talking or giving lectures, etc., it's like, oh my God, where did this come? And this alchemy series in Asteria, I think I could only go to the two of them because I'm interested in the tarot part, which I share the cards, etc., with you later. And how do the ideas come? What does it? How yeah, it's interesting for
Wow.
me. I mean,
Yeah, I mean it helps to be alongside interesting co-workers.
Mhm.
I mean, at Asteria, I'm working with Kim Farley, and she was one of my first tutors at the faculty. So our friendship and colleagueship goes way back.
Mm,
And I still have to pinch myself after all this time that I'm actually working alongside her because she was she was somebody I really looked up to as a student, and I still do. And we can have conversations that are more than the sum of their parts. So I put in ideas, she puts in ideas, and then something comes out of that,
yeah.
something that's a kind of synergy, I suppose, or a synastry. And what the subject that we're going to be tackling in the autumn term at Asteria through our Saturday
yes,
workshops is death.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
So, one of the things that the
like what?
faculty always said, do not ever go near, is, death, sex, and health. And of course,
Mm.
we're doing it. We haven't done sex yet, but we've done the others. And I think, it's the idea of what seems to be right for the time. You just kind of work with that. And at CAMS, working with Brian and Saffron and Jason, of course, they have very different backgrounds to me. Saffron works at Pacifica Graduate Institute. She's a lecturer there. Brian has decades of experience as an astrologer, working in all sorts of different fields, and particularly with family work and relationship work. And Jason is a qualified psychotherapist, and he does this. He has a very experiential bent to the work that he does. So we come from quite different backgrounds, although we're all coalescing around this core idea of symbolic imagination or mythic imagination. So when you've got people like Brian who've been decades at it and doing lots of different things, it's very easy to have those really constructive and creative conversations, out of which comes something quite extraordinary, I think. And of course, Claire was really the instigation for my interest initially in alchemy, because we've had alchemical conversations for a long time now. And of course, she wrote a book about it. And that came out of her work at the CPA. So,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Gosh, no, it's definitely really interesting stuff, all of it. And I'm very much looking forward to your death trio of workshops, although I don't think I can come to the last one.
Kim
But
Kim is that
yeah,
she's
funeral
doing
celebrant.
funeral, no, that she's I think doing that thing. I mean, like, I think the doula of that type of
She's a
version, right?
funeral celebrant. Yes, she's a
Yeah,
funeral celebrant, qualified
yeah,
funeral celebrant.
yeah.
Yes,
As
yes.
well as all her Scorpio credentials that I think she mentioned on a podcast once that I listened to.
Yeah. Well, she's somebody who's very much rooted in client work, in person-centered,
Right.
client-centered work. And I think she's a brilliant astrologer. What caught me first about her was what hooked me into her style was really her ability with language. Of course, that was really attractive to me as a Gemini, hearing her using particular um, phrases or sentences or descriptions or ways of seeing something. She could see things from lots of different perspectives and just open that whole conversation up about just one symbol or pair of symbols. But also she's kind, she's compassionate, she's considerate, she's all the things that you would wish for in an astrological tutor or consultant. So it's just a joy to work with her.
Yeah. I always liked her tree. The word is in the middle. There's a planet, and then all the
The
branches
kind of
coming
word
with the
cloud,
words, with
the mind
the
map,
word.
her mind maps, and she wrote a book on them. So that's
Yeah. That's I always see the tree coming all with these branches, and all the words are like this. And I was like, when at the faculty, I mean, she was, I think, teaching the solar returns, something like that with us. So it was same as Carole teaching us the astrocartography.
Oh
And
yeah,
I
of
think
course,
that's
yeah.
the first time I think, like, I was like, wow, it's like, I was think that, I mean, like, I was in with my sister in South Africa, and I'm like telling her that, okay, now after 8 I cannot be available. You, if my son wakes up, you take care of him, because I'm going to sit on the phone in the Zoom. I was by the corner of the room, and then, like, watching the trying to follow the thing. Yeah, it was really great. Yeah, that's so. Yeah.
Oh well, astrocartography and local space as well. I love those techniques.
Yeah.
They're very rich.
Are you going to cover those with Asteria, do you think?
Yeah.
Because is that
Yes, that's yes. When we've done death, we could cover that.
so,
Yes, we can do that.
There's still spring. That's the autumn.
There's still spring. There's still spring. And I think, just coming back to this idea of how we use astrology, how we open it up. There's so much richness in those techniques because, of course, it's a person who is moving or a person who is thinking about relocating. So you bring all your psychology to that. And the turning point for me, really, with astrocartography was thinking, long before I discovered what local space um, was discovering that you don't have to go to the place for it to work. In that you have the relationship to that part of the world, whether or not you actually pitch up physically. and then that opened up a whole sort of that the whole idea of relating to symbols on that much bigger level
Mm.
was extraordinary to me. I was reading at the time that I was really discovering astrocartography seriously. I was reading 1001 Nights. I
Yeah.
realized because a lot of the action is set in Baghdad and fictional places around, but Baghdad is there at the center of it. And then I realized that my moon line, I've got the moon
Wow.
ascendant, I think, going through Baghdad.
Oh
And there I
Wow.
gosh.
was at night, every night, reading a story like you would, because it's the 1001 Nights, and that's what you do. And there I was at night reading this, this in this rhythmic sense, this big book. It's beautiful. It's such a beautiful book. And there I was on my moon line, absolutely in
Wow.
Baghdad every night. And it was
Gosh.
fantastic. But
And did it feel like home when you were reading the stories? Did they give you that sense of, yes, this is where this is really speaking to me?
I'd love to go to Baghdad. Yes. But not Baghdad as a physical place necessarily.
Right.
It's the Baghdad of the mind.
Yes.
It's the sense of the Baghdad that is created, the mythic world that is created
Yeah.
um, through the stories, which is something different. It's something else. It's something that speaks to the soul because it can open up not just a physical association. In fact, not necessarily a physical association with that place, but
Mm.
something else, something that Baghdad represents, or something that that culture represents, or that literature, or whatever. So that for me was a revelation because then it is led by psyche. It's not led by
Yes.
this thing of if I go to live in New York, my life will fall into place. Well, maybe.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's really interesting, actually. That's a really, really interesting point because I don't think that's how most people see astrocartography when you kind of read about it and you kind of follow people on Instagram and things. So that's a really
Mm.
interesting
I'll
take on
never forget reading is it um, the book by Charles Harvey? Oh, a senior moment. I can't remember the name of it, where he gives this example of an electional chart,
it. Okay.
where the astrologer put Venus Jupiter on the midheaven of the wedding. It was a wedding chart, and the astrologer
Right.
put Venus and Jupiter conjunction on the midheaven.
Hmm.
And you'd think that would be a fantastic chart for a wedding. But of course, the wedding completely bankrupted the bride's father. And
Oh my
that was,
God.
so they actually set off on this journey of life together, married life, with this huge debt.
Yes.
So,
God.
these things work in lots of different ways. And this idea that you can just put Venus, Jupiter somewhere nice, and something objective happens that is nice. It's not the case. It's your Venus, it's your Jupiter, it's got a whole backstory to it. It's your
Gosh.
relationship to those things. What's
Yes.
the relationship of money from that person to the father who's paying for all this wedding paraphernalia? It has a backstory to it. So
Mm.
yes, once you get that, then you're into this much more symbolic space.
Mm.
Mm.
And in mythology, I feel Venus and Jupiter weren't that great together, were they? Or am I mistaken? I had a feeling I looked
Well,
that
yeah,
up.
yeah. I mean, there's a caution there, isn't there? Anima Mundi, that's the name of the book.
Okay.
Mm.
I wonder.
Anima Mundi.
Anima Mundi, brilliant book by Charles Harvey.
Right. I wonder if that's still available.
Pretty sure that's where it is.
That sounds like one to go on the list.
Oh, definitely.
Oh,
Everything that came out of the CPA press is
Yes.
one to go on the list.
Yes. I
oh.
have a couple of the old versions in the red binding and stuff, which,
Yeah.
yeah, are
Mm.
really lovely. So do you share your big three, as it were, Carol? Do you mind doing that, or do you prefer not to share those things? I think you did share.
Are you talking
It
about
has a
sun,
sh
Yes,
sun, moon,
your
Saturn?
ascendant and moon sign. You said you were a Gemini. Do you?
Yes. Well, it's worse than that. I have Gemini rising as well.
Oh, right. Okay.
And Mercury in Gemini on the ascendant in the 12th,
Okay. Right.
and the moon in Cancer in the first, alongside the sun.
Okay.
Mm.
So is that a 12th house Mercury or a first house
The
Mercury?
12th house
12th
Mercury.
house Mercury.
Ah, yes, that's
Yeah.
that's an interesting one, isn't it? Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, it's good for mythic imagination.
Yes.
It's not
Yes.
good for being concise.
No, no, that's true. In Gemini, wow.
I
Yes.
remember that because I think in Chris astrology podcast, I think I think when your book, for your book, I think
That's
you had an
right.
interview
Mm.
with Chris Brennan on the astrology podcast, and I think there you had revealed your chart,
Mm.
and then so it's like, yeah,
Well, Chris put it up. I was a bit blindsided by that. He put it
Oh,
up and said,
nice.
let's have a
Okay.
look at this. I thought, okay, let's have a look at this.
my chart.
Okay. So you were, oh, right. Okay. So you weren't entirely aware that was happening. Okay.
It's
Well,
fine. I mean, yeah, it's absolutely fine.
okay.
It's
Yeah.
absolutely fine. But, Mercury in Gemini in the 12th, coming back to where we started in the conversation, is the guy in Brighton in the cafe
Yes.
talking to me about a past life. So,
Yes.
the idea that symbol works on these multiple levels.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that's the most interesting. That's what lights my fire with astrology.
Gosh, everyone listening to this is going to want to go and see that guy in Brighton in the cafe.
Oh, the cafe's long gone, and I imagine
Sadly.
Cliff is long gone too.
Yeah.
Yes, he was quite a bit older than me.
Right.
But I like the name that his name. I like the idea that his name was Cliff because it was a turning point for me. It was like
Falling off a cliff.
Yeah,
falling
yeah,
falling
the
into
cliff.
something. But I didn't know. It's like the fool on the cliff.
Yes.
I didn't know what was coming. And
Gosh, yeah.
astrology, of course, completely changed my life. If I hadn't had that conversation with him, even though it was rather weird, he told me that I'd been a merchant in a previous life, Mercury in the 12th,
Yes.
square to Mars Pluto, but I'd engaged in dirty dealings and that I was paying it off in this life. I thought, oh, okay, well,
Yeah,
that's a
maybe.
narrative.
That was the past, so who cares?
It may be true for all I know. Who knows?
That's really interesting. Yes.
Karmic debt to the ancestors.
Yeah, goodness.
Exactly,
Yeah.
ancestors
Wow.
as well. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So I mean, it's so I mean, you are also in astrology university. You are also as a
Mm.
guest. I think you are tutoring there as well with
Yes,
Tony
just
Howard, yeah, as
Tony
well. I
Howard's
mean, like.
training program. Yes.
And we were talking about the relationship astrology before we started the recording. I mean, could you please talk about the school and how you are, what you are going to do there with the Margaret Gray in the relationship astrology? That's also another interesting, I think, school that has been founded just now.
Absolutely. Well, Margaret Gray founded the school. I can't remember exactly when, but she's been doing this for a while now, and she is, as I said, a qualified relationship counselor with a lot of experience of both working with clients in astrology with
Mm.
relationships, but also as a counselor with no astrology. And she's run these courses for a while, but this is now a new incarnation of the courses, and it's much more comprehensive well, she's just revamped everything. She's changed the not necessarily the approach, but the content seems much broader, I think, than what she was doing before. Um, it's a beautiful course. It's beautifully constructed in four
Mm.
stages, and it takes you from an understanding of relationship through just your own birth chart, through to synastry,
Okay.
through to you go deeper into the notion of relationship until you come to the final stage, which is looking outwards to community and into the collective. So it's a really comprehensive course, and at the center of it is Margaret, who is really skilled, very, very skilled, and
Mm.
really good astrologer, really brilliant astrologer. And I'm very happy to be part of it. I'm absolutely delighted to be part of it because and Alejo Lopez is working there and various
Mm.
others. So it's another community
Yeah.
of kind of like-minded people all working together and really feeling something very passionately and deeply. And Tony Howard's training program at Astrology University is again, it's a 4-year course. It's very comprehensive. He's got
Mm.
a whole huge team of people
Right.
working there in different capacities. And it's wonderful to be part of that. And again, with all of these places, the commitment of the people who participate in the courses, the students and the participants, is just outstanding. I say this, that, every year students and participants in astrological courses seem to get more savvy, younger, more savvy, more wise, more knowledgeable, more proficient.
That
I mean,
sounds,
it's wonderful. It's really encouraging.
yeah, encouraging for kind of the world, really, for the planet, for everything. Yeah, for the
Yes,
universe in general, definitely.
yes.
So what kind of level would you need to have in astrology? I'm assuming that Margaret's isn't really a beginner's course. What would you need to kind of be looking at to enroll on a course like that, for instance, the relationship astrology?
You need to be able to read a chart,
Right.
basically read a chart. You
Yeah.
can't come into that particular course not knowing
Mhm.
any astrology. It's not a beginner's course.
Yeah.
Astrology University is different. That takes you from absolutely step one,
Zero. Yeah.
right, total beginner, right the way through to professional.
And you've
Um,
got a foundation, a course on Asteria as well, haven't you? That you've done
yes,
with Kim, which
yes,
is,
yes,
yeah.
yes. We've been running our first one this year, and we're starting
Mhm.
again in January.
Yeah.
And yeah, and we're starting a forecasting course as well. So we're just consolidating what we're doing and um, building it
Yeah.
into a more comprehensive structure, starting small and building it into a more comprehensive kind of structure, but all based on this idea of working with people closely and mentoring and
Mm.
guiding and bringing the best out of and so on.
And I think
So
it's
how
worth
would,
saying
yeah,
actually that sorry, I just wanted to say on that note that you're also offering free a series of free webinars. Have I got that right? Which
yeah.
I thought was amazing actually, and I have been recommending to people left, right, and center on each sign. So I think that's something that's really probably everyone needs to sign up to actually.
Oh, thank you. Yes, every term we do a free webinar.
Yeah.
We're just giving back and community, and
This, I think this time it was Uranus in Gemini, I think, right?
we did the three ingresses last year.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
and this year we're looking at the signs,
Yeah.
just
yeah,
zodiac stories,
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely, which
That's
are
good.
really interesting.
zodiac myths.
Yeah, good for all of us to tune into
So
it.
I mean, like talking about all these, I have also asked this before we started. How does it feel under the umbrella of astrology, wearing all these hats? And how do you? I mean, like, it's a lot of things. I mean, like writing, you are talking, you also go to conferences as a speaker, and also teaching, tutoring, mentoring, and then seeing
Are you very
people
organized?
like, yeah, organizing and everything. How does it? How do you do that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, tell us,
I,
please.
I, I am very organized. You need to be. I mean, you know this from when you're running your own business or running your own scene, you've got to be. You've got to be. And you make it work. I mean, of course, I'm a Gemini, so of course I have a tendency to say yes to things if I find them interesting. And you do have to be a bit careful to not to overstretch. But Cams and Asteria are really the center of things for me, and then it kind
Mhm.
of radiates out from there, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, yes, yes. I remember having a conversation with Sue Tompkins once in a class in the 90s when I was in one of her classes. And we all wanted to know, the question was in the air of what does it take to be an astrologer? And
Yes.
this was Sue Tompkins. She's very down to earth. And she said, a good pair of shoes. Because if you're standing up in front of a class, you
Right.
need a good pair of shoes.
Yeah.
And she meant it metaphorically. You actually need to tend your business, the
Mm,
practicalities. You need to set your fees right. You need to not undersell yourself. You need to manage your time. You need to be
mm,
practical. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, which aren't necessarily the things one imagines when you go into astrology, like, oh, it's all going to be, very fluffy and things. Well,
It's a joy.
It's not.
I mean, it's a privilege really to be an astrologer, and I have to, yeah, pinch myself every day about that as well. But yeah, it's hard work. It is hard work. I won't pretend it isn't.
good.
Okay. It's very hard, yeah.
Well, I think I haven't
Yeah.
got any more questions, Carol. I mean, is there anything else
Uh,
you'd like to add to our chat?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think so, except just to say, if anybody who is listening, just go and have a look at Asteria website
Definitely.
on the Centre for Astrology, Myth and Symbol, also the Centre for Relationships and Astrology. Just go and check those places out and see what we're up to.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
we will put
we
those
will
links, won't we?
definitely, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely add them in the YouTube and also on the social media when we put the interview out. We are going to put all the links and everything so that in case that they would like to reach out to you or the schools that you are part of, they can easily find the links and everything. We make it practical.
Practical. Well,
That's what we have the Virgo for.
and also, just as a last word to anybody listening, keep working with your astrology, keep it close to your heart, keep
Yeah.
faith with it,
Yeah.
make it joyful, make it part of your life. Don't let anybody throw you off course.
No.
Just keep working with it.
Mm.
And then it rewards you. You have that relationship with it. It's part of your life. It's like it's a constant presence and it's constantly joyful. So just don't let anything knock that off course.
Yeah, that's lovely. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you
That's
so much. Thank you, Carol, for being
classes
with
off
us
now.
today. It was fantastic. Like we just, I think, like all the information and all the, all that symbolism and everything that came through this conversation. I think we got amazed once more again, and we got really inspired. It was very inspirational. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you,
Well,
Carol.
you're so welcome. Thank you, Terry. Thank you,
Mm,
Alison.
mm, mm.